Hello again. It has been quite some time since I posted a video. Baseball season is finally finished, and now I have time to get back to drawing and painting. Today I thought I would throw together a comparison of budget pencils. And for this video, I've shortlisted them to 4. Now depending on where you live, these may or may not be budget pencils. These picks should mostly apply to North America. For a Crayola 24 set, I'm looking at under $2. The 50 or 60 set can usually be picked up for less than 10. The Faber-Castell Classic 48 set is a little more pricey for me, generally around $20 to $25. These are my favorite, and depending on where you live, they can be significantly less expensive. The next set is the Prang 50 set. I did a drawing last year with these, and I actually couldn't find much wrong with them. The box is horrible, but the pencils are quite nice. The set cost me about $15, but again, they tend to be more expensive in Canada. Lastly is the Prismacolor Scholar 60 set, the largest of the sets. Typically, you can find these on sale at Amazon for around $20. I've seen them at Staples as a back-to-school special for $18. These are nice pencils, but I have struggled from time to time sharpening them. The other thing about Prismacolor Scholar pencils and all the budget pencils is once you start getting up to the $20 mark, the artist grade Prismacolor Premier pencils become a very comparable alternative. This is a 48 set. I probably picked these up for $25. I know I also have purchased the 72 set, which is my preferred set, and that cost me $35. Those were sale prices from Amazon.ca, so even cheaper in the US. Why would we want to spend that extra money? Firstly, light fastness. These won't fade as badly as budget pencils. Color intensity is another major reason for jumping up to the artist grade. Now these are quite soft pencils, so they do take some time to get used to. So we're starting out with the Crayola, and the drawing will be Chris Evans as Captain America. I will start on the shield. I have limited colors, and in many cases, I will be limited by intensity, so I don't expect this to be a great drawing. For the reference image I am using, the shield is red, quite dark, towards burgundy or magenta. The lower section is a silvery gold. There are no silver or gold, so I will improvise with yellow and gray. The intensity of the reds isn't too bad for a Crayola. The purple is a bit weak, and it seems I have broken a lead already. Not a common thing with Crayola. I'm using the sharpener that came with the box, and it looks like I broke the lead again. Turns out it had 3 breaks, but then I managed to get it under control. It could have come broken from the store. The wood does seem a bit rough, so I may have broken it while sharpening. Onto the blues for the suit. Again, limited here to blue, light blue, and sky blue. So to really get that dark color, I need to add in black. I generally don't like doing that, but there's no other option. Good assortment of colors for flesh tones as I fill in the ear. I do notice that Crayola tend to have a grainy look if you start to add browns into the skin tones. Blues and blacks are mixing quite well for the jaw strap. That looks quite sharp. Now, I have worked with these enough to really get a feel for them. They are a bit rough to go on, which can result in hand fatigue. They sharpen well, although I did have problems with the red-orange. In summary, the intensity is average to good, durability average to good, sharpening good, typically, with a few exceptions. For details, these are hard pencils, so you can get a good tip, so average to good for details. Blending and layering, I'd put them just around average. Fading or light fastness, as you would expect for budget pencils, so these will fade and they'll fade fairly quickly. Cost is excellent, as they were the cheapest of the bunch. The next set is the Prang colored pencils. I really wanted to put these up against some of the other budget pencils because the last time I used them, I thought they might be a winner when it comes to budget pencils. I immediately start with the blue, which there is a good assortment. It's blue, light blue, sky blue, ocean blue, which was my favorite, dark blue, and moonlight blue. I did find the intensity lacking for some of them. Working with the flesh tones, I found I really couldn't get the shading as dark as I wanted. I also found the pencils seemed quite hard on the paper. There were no issues sharpening, no broken leads. You have to press quite hard to blend or burnish, but even then I found things looked a little bit grainy. Crayola's had a much smoother look. Onto the shield, and the same thing. Although the set has 50 colors, it doesn't seem to have any deep reds. Colors like plum or berry red are very washed out, as are most of the purple and pink colors. The set does have a gold and silver, which I can use for the lower part of the shield. So I decide I'll give Prangs a little more time. I keep working on the face, adding layers to try and darken things up. The Prangs are a thicker pencil, so I find them to be more comfortable in my hands, but I find I'm struggling to add layers to darken things up. And even though they sharpen well and have hard leads, it's difficult to add in details because the pencils lack intensity. So overall, not really impressed, having used Crayola previous to this. In summary, the intensity is poor to average. The durability is good, as is sharpening. Detail, poor to average, and again that's mostly tied in with intensity. The blending and layering I put as average. It probably averaged to good, but the end results are still unimpressive. Fading, as you'd expect for budget pencils, and cost, average to good. Next on the list is Prismacolor Scholar. I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with these. Sharpening them without breaking them can be a chore. Fortunately, Prismacolor has solved my desire to purchase and use these pencils. More on that later. The difference between these and Prangs is immediate. These go on much smoother. You still need to burnish or blend the last layer, but even that isn't too bad with a sharpened pencil. Color intensities are great. Up to now, I was only trying to work with the pencils I had, not making any real effort to match tones in the reference image. With the 60 set of Scholars and the color intensities, I can at least work towards matching the reference image and at the same time trying to keep things reasonable when compared to the Crayola and Prang. For the shield, I couldn't find a gold in this set, but it did come with a silver. There is a great assortment of reds, and the intensity is amazing. Skin tones are a bit of a struggle. First, the browns are not that intense. Second, I find you really need to plan out how you will layer things, since you can only get about 3 layers on with the Scholars before the tooth of the paper has been completely filled. So for the lighter skin tones, they're not too bad. For darker skin tones, it can be a bit of a struggle. In summary, the intensity, good to excellent. Durability, poor to average. I didn't break any leads on this drawing, but these pencils do have a history. Sharpening, poor. Again, no broken leads here, but plenty of broken leads in the past for this set and my previous set. Details, poor to average. The tips wear down fairly quickly as they are softer leads. Blending, these blend very good. Layering, also quite good, but limited to 3 or 4 layers. Fading, as expected for budget pencils. And the cost, I'd put in the range of poor to average. These are one of the more expensive sets. I saved the best for last, at least that was the plan. But I did enjoy working with the Prismacolor Scholars. The last set is the Faber-Castell Classic 48 set. These are the only pencils that have a hexagonal shape. Although the shape can be hard on the fingers, the hexagonal shape prevents them from rolling off the table. Very easy to sharpen. I use a Faber-Castell Trio sharpener. They hold a nice sharp tip for details, and it also helps in making blending and burnishing easier. There's a good selection of colors. They are, however, numbered and not labeled, so you need to work with them a while to figure things out. Once you're familiar with the pencils, the numbering scheme isn't an issue. For the lighter side of Captain America's helmet, I'm able to get the blue tones I want without having to resort to using any black. It is, however, the lighted side of the helmet, and any shaded areas do require the use of black. For the lips, the reds are not as intense as the Prismacolor, but they do the job. One thing I forgot to mention, for lightening things up, only the Prismacolor Scholar white was really effective. All the other whites acted more like a burnishing tool. Onto the eye, this is where I really noticed the biggest difference. You can get so much more detail with the Faber-Castell Classics because of the sharp tips. And because they are so easy to sharpen, keeping those tips sharp isn't a chore. You don't get the intensity or the contrast like you would using an artist grade pencil, but that is to be expected. The end result also looks so much cleaner than the eye that was done with the Prang. So if your goal is realistic portraits, the Faber-Castell Classics would be a good option. Back to working on the mask, and again the pencils motivate you to actually try to do a better job on the details. This slows things down a bit, but you end up with a nicer result. This also motivated me to work longer with the Faber-Castell Classics. Another important thing to note, normally near the end of the drawing I'm in a rush and just want to get the drawing finished. But here I find myself taking extra time on the details, all because I enjoy working with the pencils. For the face and the ear, I experimented a bit more with skin tones. A good assortment of colors for this, but if you really want to darken things up, I think you're going to struggle. The neck is a good example of me darkening things up. Not too bad, doesn't look grainy or dirty, but it isn't much darker than, say, a medium flesh polychromos pencil. I then move on to his jacket, and I also draw in his suspender. This is important, as I probably would have just colored the suspender gray without any detail if I was working with the other pencils. But because I know I can get the detail with these, I go through the process of adding in the texture to the suspenders. In the end, it doesn't look too bad. For the red on his shield, this is where the intensities don't quite hit the mark. The reds are more pinky than red, and you just can't get the intensities like you can with the Scholar pencils. In summary, intensity, good, but there are exceptions. Durability is excellent, the sharpening is excellent, details, again, are excellent. Blending is average to good. There are hard pencils, and you do have to work with them to blend. Layering, I would put around good. Fading, again, as expected for budget pencils, but these are maybe a little worse than the rest of the pencils. The costs are poor to average. So these are a little more expensive for me to purchase, but depending on where you live, these might be quite inexpensive. And on that note, if you're getting into the $20 to $25 range for a set of pencils, you may want to spend just a little more money and step up to the Prismacolor Premiers. Now this is a 48 set. They cost me about $25. The 72 set, which is the one I prefer, comes in around $35. You do need to watch for them to be on sale. Black Friday and Boxing Day are usually good times to pick up a set. Normally they would cost $10 to $15 more. Immediately you should notice the reds are so much more intense than the other pencils. These are very soft leads, and they go on almost like pastels. I then fool around with the green background a bit, and they contrast so much with the other pencils, it actually makes the drawing look a bit strange. I'm not really worried about that. Because they are so soft, it does make filling in backgrounds like this a little easier. You do need to spend a bit of time sharpening though. Final comments on the 4 budget color pencils. Clearly the winner is the Faber-Castell Classics. After working with Prangs, I thought they might be a contender, but they're not even close. Top spot, Faber-Castell Classics, a pleasure to use and great for details. The second place, Prismacolor Scholars. Nice to work with, some really great colors. Durability and sharpening are serious issues though. Third, I was thinking of making it a tie, but I had to put Crayolas ahead. They are inexpensive and come across as very average pencils. They go on a bit dry, they tend to have a waxy bloom, but they work as intended. And in last is the Prang pencils. Intensities were the worst of the bunch. While they felt nice to use and had good durability, the end product just didn't look that great. When I used them last year, I was mostly comparing them to Lyra Rembrandt, which I gave the thumbs down to, so at the time they seemed pretty good, but when compared to the other budget color pencils, they fall short. That's all for now. I hope to have another drawing done in the next 2 weeks, so stay tuned for that. Don't forget to subscribe. If you found any of the information useful, hit the like button, and if you know of any other budget pencils worth reviewing, let me know in the comments.